And I am back, brand new video, brand new segment. This is gonna be the Q&A section. Ask me anything with questions from the subscribers. Now, I was recently asked, how did I get into property? And to explain that, I'm gonna have to take you back to my first business. So my first business was a shisha business. We started off doing pop-up shisha events within bars and nightclubs, ended up in some of the biggest clubs in the UK like Proud 2, then transitioned into doing overnight festivals with marquees, 24-hour shisha, great turnover, making £3,000 profit per day. We took that money and actually took a license on a premises to have my own shisha lounge called the Buddha Lounge, which was really fun. Had that around the age of 21, 22, made some really good money, but unfortunately, because I had a license rather than a lease, I didn't have the ability to reinvest. And that made me say, do you know what? I want to make sure that I own my next asset. So that was where I decided my next step was going to be into property. Before diving in, I really immersed myself into all things property, started to network and engage with existing developers, find out about different strategies. And the one that really stood out to me was the 1 to 2 bedroom strategy. Because basically you take a 1-bedroom flat, you do internal reconfiguration, so it doesn't require any planning, can be pretty straightforward. You need something called a license to alter agreement from your freeholder, but generally speaking in your lease, it will say that cannot be unreasonably withheld. So the process can be pretty straightforward. You can get in and out quickly, and there are a lot of these types of flats on the market, particularly if you can find one that needs work. So you're adding value from the work and then adding value from the additional bedroom. Let's talk about my first deal. So my first deal was actually in an area that I know really well. It was in Sydenham. I grew up in Southeast London, so it's an area that I know. I know the good roads, the bad roads, so it meant deal appraisal was a lot easier. And I do think as a tip for somebody starting out, if you can start in an area that you know, it's gonna be really beneficial. But if you can't, make sure you specialize. Don't look all over the place, learn an area, hone your craft and become an expert in that area. So I found a 1-bedroom flat that was in a rundown state in Sydenham, Southeast London. It was up for auction, so I had to look at the guide price, but if you are looking at auction properties, ignore the guide price, live in your numbers and let your numbers determine your maximum bid. So ahead of going to auction and actually putting your money down and bidding, because once you do win that, you're legally binded, so you've got to make sure you get all your ducks in a row beforehand. So outside of what you think the GDV is going to be, there's other considerations. Number one, your finance. You need to arrange your finance first, so have a conversation with a great mortgage broker. If you don't already have one, drop me a message and I'll make sure I connect you with mine. You also need a good legal team. So at auction, you need to do something called a legal pack review, which will outline any potential issues based on the documents that they've provided, the vendor has provided. And then lastly, I would recommend, if you haven't done it already, have a conversation with a builder to give you an accurate costing for the property, just to make sure you're in the right ballpark. Once you're happy with all of that and you're feeling confident, you then can potentially go to auction, which we did for this property. So in this instance, GDV was worked out through good comparables. So when we're looking at comparables, you want to be comparing like for like. So apples for apples and oranges for oranges. So you want to be thinking about the type of building. Is it Victorian? Is it end of terrace? Is it purpose built? Then you want to be thinking about size, so the square footage of the property. Then condition. What finish are you going to finish your property to? The area, you know, the road, the proximity to stations, then the amenity space. All of these things are going to have an impact on value. So you want to find as similar properties as possible, and you want to be looking at both sold prices, properties that are currently on the market to give you an idea of current market values, as well as having conversations with local agents. Once you've got what the property thinks, what you think the property is going to be worth at the end, you'll then start to do your deductions. So first you'll deduct your build costs that you'll work out through a breakdown. Now I use my deal analyzer, and there's a number of ways you can work this out, but really kind of as a top level idea and a little hack, I would say if you take around 10% of your GDV for a 1 to 2 bed and use that as your budget for your refurbishment, generally you'll be in a good ballpark. Beyond that, you need to take into account your purchase costs. So that's your stamp duties, surveys, legal costs. So you take all of those into account and you deduct that. You then deduct your cost of finance if you have a cost of finance, and afterwards you deduct what you would want your profits to be. So now let's talk about the specifics of this deal. I won the property for £220,000. My stamp duty cost me £1,900. My survey was £300. The The mortgage arrangement fee was $3,500, or the finance cost, because it was actually a bridging loan. The cost of finance was just under $10,000. The works cost me just under $20,000. And then we had a few other expenses like the agency expense when you sell, solicitor fees, and also the bills and council tax for the time that I own the property. All of those costs came to just over £260,000. We actually went to market at $300,000, but because it was finished to a high standard, we ended up selling for $307,000, leaving profits of just over $44,000, or a great 38% return on investment. So let me explain how we were able to add value to this property, or why we bought this one specifically. So starting point, 575 square foot, good size, and can work as a 2-bedroom flat. If you're looking for 1 to 2 beds, things to look out for are, number 1, does it have a separate kitchen? Number 2, where are the windows? Because you always need natural light for bedrooms. Number 3, your drainage runs. Are you able to remove the existing drainage? Because, for example, moving a bathroom with the large waste pipe can be quite difficult. We were able to keep the bathroom in the same location, so that's a tick. It had the floor space, so that's a tick. It also had a good sized kitchen, which meant we could move this L-shaped kitchen, create bedroom number 2, and create the open plan kitchen living room with a straight kitchen. Now, minimum size for a kitchen run, I would generally say is around 3.2 to 3.6 meters is probably the smallest size you'd get away with. And ideally you want to be targeting rooms that are around 16 square meters to get a good size. Because if you do have a really small open plan kitchen living room, you can get down valued off the back end, and it means it's more difficult to resell and refinance. For a first project, it actually went pretty smoothly. And I would say for your first project, yes, you want to make money, but you're gonna earn a lot more in the experience that you have, the learning curve, the process. So focus, yes, on the deal making sense, but also make sure you learn while doing. If you're starting up now, I definitely recommend taking a deep dive and immersing yourself into all of the content information that is available and out there for you on loads of great YouTube channels, Instagrams, LinkedIn's, and everything in between. And then when you want to top up that knowledge, you can join something like either my PBK community or any of the other great communities out there that will give you the support structure that you need to have confidence in embarking on your next deal. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going to be back with more questions, more hints, more tips, more gems each and every week. Peace.